Imagine this. Someone comes up to you and your partner and says, hey, I know life this week still has the list of things you need to do, like school drop-offs, laundries, dinners. But what if you also got to step into a honeymoon? A fresh honeymoon. One woven into your everyday life. No countdown, no big trip, just an intentional spark into your everyday life. Well, that is what this episode is all about.
Honey, we need to chat.
Today, we're going to be looking at why those early days of love looked so different for relationships, what changes as the years go on in relationships, and how we can weave some of that early spark back into our everyday lives now in really doable, practical ways. So stick around because we've got practical outworkings of this, but we're going to dive into what happens in relationships to adjust this spark honeymoony period that goes on at the beginning.
Absolutely. So welcome back to another episode of Honey, We Need to Chat, the podcast all about communication in a relationship. We believe when communication dies in a relationship, bad things happen in a relationship. So I'm Blair. This is my wife, Amy. We're just your everyday couple navigating your everyday struggles just to help you realize that you can too. There's nothing unique or special about us. We're just committed to that journey and that growth, and we want to do that with you. So if you're new, hey, welcome to this episode. If you're not new, hey, welcome back. Amy and I, we do this podcast as one of the little things that we do. We also run our YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, great. Check. You've done that. We also bring out our weekly vlogs, and we're also coming out with more content as well. So make sure you head over to YouTube, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Communicate with us in the comments about the episodes or the vlogs, or also the coaching material coming out on YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe there so you get notified when it does come out.
And today I'm repping. Honey, we need to chat. We were gifted these shirts from our workplace, which we are so excited, so grateful for after our win of our award the other week. So thank you, Dad's Group. And it's really easy on this podcast and when you're tackling relationship topics to have a lot of, I guess, hard work or maybe things that feel burdensome or negative. We try not to be too negative, but a lot of our topics are heavy. Like they're serious. They're things that we dive into parts of relationships that might be a little bit painful in the hopes to bring hope and constructiveness to it. But this week, we've just gone through a relationship reset mini-series. We've dived into some stuff to really reset relationships, but we wanted to focus on something a little more immediately fun, a little bit immediately more lighthearted than probably some of the other topics. So we thought it would be nice to explore this topic of kind of a fresh honeymoon or a fresh revival to your spark in the relationship as well, which is an important part of relationships that's often not touched on because we've got so many other big ticket items that we're going through. So that's why we wanted to dive into this and explore what goes on for people. So why is it that in the early days, relationships feel so different?
Well, on my expert opinion, no. I think, if I think back to our early days, there was this like magical, time of, man, I'm getting to know you. And it's like, oh, you actually like me, it's this like reciprocal thing of like, I'm interested in you, I'm getting to know you more, but you like me, and that's awesome. So it's this like special thing when you've identified that person. It's amazing. It's just so magical is a cheesy way of saying it, but I mean it is like it's that new thing. It's like, what is happening? What's going on? And you're on an adventure to figure out what's going on. Yeah,
and everything's new. There's tons of stuff to explore. Like literally, unless you've known them your whole life, and even then, you're learning them on a totally different level. Layer is what I was trying to say, but it sounded like I said layer. Anyway, and there's just so much to explore. Yeah. So every piece of information or every interaction that's on a new level of like affection or intimacy is really heightened. And there's a reason for that. I was looking into what the scientific reason for that is, and it's that it's all dopamine based. So your brain is really flooded with dopamine at the beginning, which is the reward chemical. So it makes everything feel very exciting and novel. And there's another chemical, which I have to write down how it says, norepinephrine.
Oh, the old norepinephrine.
Which is sometimes also called noradrenaline. And that's the excitement chemical. And those kinds of things, because things are new, they're a very present chemical at the beginning. your brain is interpreting falling in love as a really exciting, big, novel thing, which it is, and the potential connection and the potential significance and all these things, especially, you've grown up probably projecting that you'll fall in love and meet somebody. And when it starts to happen, it's like, oh my gosh, I've thought about this for so long. And so it starts to fire up all these chemicals that make you pay closer attention, strengthen bonds. It's all very helpful for that process, but it's very exciting.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why things feel so intense at the very beginning.
Yeah, because you get this like infatuation with each other.
Infatuation
with each other.
Yeah.
Of like, I need to, like text you more. I need to spend more time with you. It's this like real draw to each other. And it's kind of an uncontrollable draw, if it makes sense. Like it's like this like need thing, not just a want thing.
It's funny because if you think about how you talked to other people at that time, at least I was like, I could hear myself talking sometimes and be like, I know I'm annoying right now, but I can't not talk about Blair. Like that's all I was thinking about. And it's the whole excitement. And I've got someone in my life going through this right now, and it's fun to see them communicate this way in this excitement. And it's not weak or silly.
No, it's just what it is. It's just the point they're up to in that relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're very hyper attentive to everything going on. And so your brain is literally helping you tune in on everything. So you're noticing their laughs, their quirks, their voice, the way that they touch you. And that's one thing that I was going to reflect on. On our second date, we went to Target or Kmart to buy a clothes rack for you.
That's right. Yeah.
And there was this point where you just kind of gently put your hand on my back as we were walking around, and I went bright red. And you commented on it. You're like, look at you blushing. And I was blushing.
Now, this is what, 15 years ago or something, or 12 years ago?
2013.
That's insane memory.
12 years ago, yeah. Yeah, well, I just remember you commenting on it, and I blushed. Like, my face is so annoying because
Amy doesn't hide emotions.
Everything away. Even when I'm like, yeah, anyway, dive into that. But and so I just remember it being like, I was like so aware of the fact that your hand was on my back, and then being like, play it cool, Amy.
But your face is like,
but then you started commenting on it, so then I couldn't like avoid being aware of that. So I was like, yeah, thank you. Don't comment on people who blush.
Don't do it, guys.
Unless it's in a flirty way, then it's okay. But don't. I've had people comment on it in a really not helpful way.
Yeah.
But that is like, now your touch doesn't make me, I'm not like super aware of your hand on my back anymore. I still feel it's nice, but it's not the same kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
And every little thing like that at the beginning is amplified. Yeah. And especially because those are your firsts of everything too, right? So anyway, it's a part of your brain telling you that these things are important, and that it's a normal part of getting to know somebody and moving into that stuff. Your brain is telling you that this person matters. So every detail, including their appearance, the way that you're interacting, but then also the details about them, there's all these questions. And we talk about curiosity on here a lot. We talk about, asking questions, and we've given examples of that, even the would you rathers, which we'll get into later. There's every piece of information to learn. So it's not like now we'll have really good conversations, and you can really still have good conversations. But it's almost like when we discover something new about each other, it's really weird. It's kind of like, whoa.
Yeah. Why do I not know that?
Yeah. It's so funny. So the other thing too is every detail is feeling important at the beginning. And I replay. I don't know what guys do. I replayed things. So things like our first kiss. For the first couple of years, I could have told that story off like at any point if someone had asked me. Now, if someone asks me, I have to be like, oh, this. Still, that story I'm pretty clear on. Things like the first time you told me you loved me.
Yeah.
Like I have to like hone in
I remember
on
that.
memory.
I remember our first hug. I remember when I first said I loved you. We were driving to Ringwood or something.
We were driving from Kangaroo Ground
to Ringwood or something. I remember I said it there.
Yeah. You'd been away on a camp.
Was I?
Yeah. And you had been thinking it was the 6th grade transition camp.
Oh, yeah. Transition from primary school to high school.
Yeah, for youth group.
That's right. I remember that. I don't remember our first kiss.
How funny. We were watching some stupid movie. I think it was the, what's that stupid army?
Major Pain?
Yeah. I think it was
sets the mood.
I think it was that.
It set the mood.
we watched a lot of movies in the early days. Good excuses to hold hands.
Yeah. And snuggle.
And I remember because I'd put my arm, we were sitting there and your arm was around me and you leant forward to get a drink of water. And so I put my hand on your back just to be like, I don't know, because that's what we did back then. And then you turn around and you just kiss me.
Just does it. Major pain, hand on the back,
done.
Sets the mood.
Yeah, done and done. So things like that, you replay and they anchor into your brain. And anchors are a really important part of helping you process things. It's something we use in coaching a lot. Anchors are things that elicit really intense emotional connections. So you can think like you might be walking around and you get a whiff of something in the air and it just takes you right back to a memory of your grandparents' house or something like that. I regularly get little glimpses of songs that remind me of my dad, like, because music was big for him. And it's not just that I'm like, oh, he liked that song. It's like I can hear his voice singing that part of the song. And so when they come on movies or whatever, then it just like straight away takes me to that place. And there's just, like, you could probably think of a million things like chalkboard dust. That smell would probably take a lot of us millennials right back to, I don't even know if they use chalkboards anymore. Back to school times. Sunscreen is a good example, like a really specific smell would take you to outdoor times. Beach for me would be the only time because I don't spend much time outdoors. But whatever you've connected to one of these senses, there's an anchor is something that just like takes you right back there. And so they're really important parts to tie you into positive. Unfortunately, they can also be triggers, like for not so positive experiences. But they can be useful for tying you into a positive memory or state of mind or bringing you back into like refocusing you on the direction you're wanting to go. So when you're coaching, you can use anchors really strategically to help people hone in on this picture of where they're wanting to get to or their goal that they've got, the future that they're seeing for themselves. And they can create an anchor there that helps them when they're needing to come back to that, really quickly get back into that. It's also something that we can use because those early days are full of anchors. So there's all these moments, the first perfumes that we smelt on each other, or the first like foods that we ate, or the first songs that were important to us, those first memories we just talked about, those kinds of things. These can be used really strategically to help refocus you. And because early love is full of all these anchors, there's all these moments that became anchors for you, whatever they might be, whatever. It's usually connected to a sense. So like tight touch, man. Sight, touch, smell, noise, certain music, all of those sorts of things. What is the other one? Sight, touch, smell, noise, taste.
Let's go with it.
All of those are usually connected to a simple memory, and we can use that to kind of bring us back into that. And so we will probably not find anchors to be quite as regular as you're going into relationships, because not everything you can't maintain the same level of everything is novel and exciting forever. It's just not sustainable as we have at the beginning of a relationship. So you'll find not every moment or every smell or every touch is going to have that same like, whoa, that connects me right into this feeling. But what you can do is use those anchors to re-trigger those states of being or those feelings and those emotions and use them as a moment of kind of resetting where your relationship is at and be like, oh, that's right. I find perfume really good for this. Like your cologne is a really good anchor. It shocks me out of the everyday. If you're walking around and you've got your cologne on, then it's maybe because you don't wear it all day.
All day, yeah.
You wear deodorant all day, just to be really clear.
Yeah.
But your cologne is not an everyday thing. So when I smell it, it's like, that it just kind of takes me out of the cloud of the here and now and brings me back into like, I'm focusing back on you. So here are some anchor memory prompts that you can reflect on right now and see if there's any that would be helpful for you to try and keep a little fresh, or helpful for you to tap into on a regular basis to keep a little bit of this spark alive. So your first kiss, like we just talked about, think about that. Try and remember, what was your first kiss? Where was it? Who initiated it? What happened? When was it? What was going on around you? That sort of thing. Take a moment to reflect on that. Maybe it's something that you know straight away. Maybe it's something that's a little rusty. Do you even remember when I explained that? Do you remember it?
No, I don't remember.
So it's not even in your memory. How crazy.
Yeah.
And so not all of these will be applicable to everyone.
But it's fun to have that conversation though, to try and remember it. Like I said, I remember our first hugs where we just played volleyball for the young adults ministry at church. Yeah. And then it was just you and me left, I think.
Yeah, we waited for everybody to leave because no one knew we were getting to know each other.
There was someone coming to pick you up or something? I can't remember why. So I was driving. Maybe we just waited for everyone.
I was driving some friends home and they were in the car. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, and then I'm just like, I just asked for a hug and then I got it. And you were wearing a white hoodie.
See, I would not have remembered what I was wearing.
Really?
I remember the moment, but not what I was wearing.
Yeah, I remember the white hoodie.
How funny. There you go.
So it's just fun to have the conversations. Yeah. I think what's important is, when someone doesn't remember something, it does not mean they don't care.
No.
So just have fun with it. Like, just try and tell those stories again because, going back to that honeymoon phase of, your relationship in the early days and how excited you were over everything. It's not trying to chase that back because again, you shared about the chemicals going into your brain. You're not trying to chase the chemicals. You're really just trying to highlight, actually, this was special. This was a special time, especially if you guys are struggling to identify those things in each other at the moment. Yeah. If you're in a rough patch in your relationship, going back to remember what it was like could help you for what you have now, and help start practicing that of gratitude and appreciation where appropriate. Like we do constantly talk about how we understand that not every relationship, some relationships have some really terrible situations about, so we're not trying to water that down, but just in those difficult times, those regular difficult times, coming back, this is special. This is where a strength is of ours. This is how we used to care for each other and love each other, and it's nice.
So your first kiss. Let's reflect on that. Talk about that if you want to, or just reflect on it personally. The first time you held hands, I remember this because I was cracking my knuckles.
Oh yeah,
and I thought Blair was just wanting to hold my hand because he kept putting his hand on. I think you were wanting to hold my hand.
Yeah. Also, but it was a little bit of both.
I may have cracked them more just to make sure you would hold my hand. The moment one of you said, I love you, that was in the car. We just reflected on that. Blair said it first. A laugh until you cried moment. I don't know if I mean, there's lots of these. Maybe not crying. Lots of
laughing so much.
Fun, I can't remember any specific ones, but it does happen.
Humor was like an early thing of our relationship. It was just humor was a big part of that.
Yeah. Your first trip or adventure together?
Greece.
That would be a big, our big first trip. I think we would have we came to Wodonga. That was one. Or I came up to Wodonga.
You came up because I was already up for my cousin's wedding and you gate crashed. It was actually after the wedding.
Not the wedding. I didn't gate crash. I arranged with your mum to come and then your mum was trying to get you out of your bedroom. This is a 25-year-old man, just to be clear.
I was staying
at his mum's house having a nap. And she's like, Blair, someone's here. And you just came out with death on your face. You were like, I'm going to kill whoever this is. And then you were I just remember you standing at your door what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
He was very excited though.
Yeah, I was so
Once
excited.
he woke up and realized what was happening. The exact second you thought this might be my person, very early on.
Very early. It was for us, it's funny because we share this with people and you feel silly saying it, but it was the genuine truth. I saw Amy and I knew she was a significant person.
Same.
It was just I
turned around and caught eyes with you across the church and I was like, who's that?
Yeah.
Out of the whole church.
Yeah, we just locked eyes. And I was not close to you either.
No,
it was
you were across the thing.
Other side. Locked eyes and straight away I knew significant person. Then you walked away.
But this, and we've said this recently, I don't believe in that. I do not tell people that that's what happens because I genuinely don't think that that's what always happens. It did happen for us.
Yeah.
So if you haven't had that, please don't worry. It was just bizarre that we did. And then how you used to talk on the phone for hours. And this is actually, we used to talk all the time.
All the time.
And even I remember when your texts, we got comfortable with each other and they changed to thumbs up or okay. Yeah. And I just remember being like, oh, okay, this is over now. But it was because we spent significant amount of time together. We didn't need to have these big, huge, I have printed out our first text messages to each. Well, they weren't. They
Facebook
were
messages,
because it was us literally getting to know each other on Messenger. That's where the whole relationship started for the first 3 weeks or a month. And I printed them out because they were big, long conversations. And I remember when we started talking, and my cousin already knew you. And you had just been asking me a lot of questions after we met about my mission trip. And then you were talking about your mission trip. And I was like, Blair's talking to me a lot. And she's like, oh, he does that with everyone. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe I was like, no man sits there and has these conversations if he's not interested. And then she's like, no, he's just a really friendly person. And I was like, maybe he's not interested. I think very quickly I was like, no, I think this is not normal. Anyway, so think about these things, and we can put these in a document so you can download them. You don't have to remember them all, but just take time to reflect on these things. As you've just seen, it's fun to reflect on these things. And it's fun, especially when you're parents and you're ingrained in your everyday life and you just don't spend this time reflecting on who you are to each other. Like, you do very much have a very strong understanding of who you are to each other in terms of the stability and the role that it carries. But who you are to each other and how it started is a really important way of kind of remembering, oh, we're significant to each other. We're not just two randoms that ended up in a family and now we're both responsible for the same things. So having reflected on those anchors, when you look back to the early days, I want to ask you, what is something, and you can answer and we can answer, what's something you crave or miss the most? Something when I think back, so we're talking about the honeymoon period of when we started dating, but something I think about a lot is the day after, the first day of our actual honeymoon. So waking up, like, so those that have been married that are listening in, you know, you're so busy with the wedding, like all the planning, all the logistics, and ours was chaos because ours was an outdoor wedding, and it changed because, well, the ceremony was outdoors, but the reception we had to change to indoors because we had severe weather warnings, and it was just so intense. And then you go through the ceremony, and then as soon as the ceremony's finished, you are meeting people. You're saying hello, thank you so much for coming, and then photos, and it's just so busy. And then you leave, and then you go to wherever you're going afterwards. The morning after, and you have no plans. So we stayed in St. Kilda for a couple of days before we took a flight to Hawaii. So which I'm really glad we did that.
We did. So we didn't go straight from, wedding to Hawaii airport. Yeah. We actually had a couple of days where we had literally nothing to do. That was my highlight of the honeymoon. Honestly, it was the morning after. There was nothing to do. We just hung out. We just hung out. We went out. We're like, what are you going to do right now? Oh, let's go out for breakfast. It was just so quality. There was no interruption. There was no rush. There was no time. Time was not an issue at all because it did not matter. We had no deadlines or places to be. And that was so special because I crave that. Yeah. You know, especially being parents now, everything is busy. And I love the busyness. I love the chaos. I love our family, but I crave that time of nothing needs to be done. Even when we do go, like we might go away for a weekend or something, it's usually planned. We usually have stuff to do. As well. We don't have that wake up and nothing is planned. I think as well, because back in those days, and I don't know if it was like young, naive, like I just was naive to responsibilities. You would have carried more of this because you were the main worker and had been independent for longer. But I just was not worried about bills or even work. I just wasn't worried about it. Like I would go to work and I would come home. My work was like, it wasn't like a cafe at that stage. I was working in a business consultancy with like responsibility, but I just, unless I'm forgetting, I didn't carry that stuff home the same way. I carried there was a lot of family stuff going on at that stage. So that was really weighing on us outside of these things. So maybe that's why I didn't have the brain space to carry the things. But now I feel like even if we arrange a time to just go to the city and we've got no plans at all, one, I think there's this like urgency because I'm like, oh, we're wasting the day. Like we're wasting the day and we've got no plans and we just sit there and scroll our phones or something, which is probably another factor. Well, we didn't have when we were in Hawaii, we didn't have our phones.
But even then, like social media at that stage was so not the same. Yeah. It wasn't like TikTok or Instagram or even YouTube where you can just scroll and scroll and scroll. You ran out, like it literally would say you've gotten to the end of your feed. Yeah. And then like, you're like, okay, cool. It was not the same. And I just had no urgency and because there was nothing to do, but also no urgency. Like I'm wasting this time, or we've only got one more day, or we've only got a few more hours, or I wonder how the kids are going. And one of them had a cough before we left and blah, blah, blah. All of this stuff is good stuff, but it is different. And I agree. I miss similar. Not that specific moment wasn't as impactful to me. It was, but not. You've mentioned that many, many times over our marriage. And I don't think I had the same kind of overwhelm to it. But I miss just us, and not miss enough to not wish for the chaos that we have every day. Like that's the biggest blessing ever. But just having just us to navigate. And I think sometimes I miss having a sick day.
Being an adult is hard.
Being an adult with no kids and having a day off for a cold, like that's what I crave. But like we used to be, because we lived close to a shopping center, we would just randomly be like, do you want to go to the movies tonight?
Yeah.
And then we would just go over in our trackies.
Do you go
out
dinner?
for breakfast. Yeah. All that stuff. I miss those times.
Michael McIntyre has this most amazing skit on parenthood. Like, so couples without kids and couples with kids. Go check it out. It is so
about leaving
funny.
the house.
About leaving the house. It is so triggering. Funny.
Anyway, so it's good to reflect on these things. So what is something that you miss or crave? And we've spoken about responsibilities more than our relationship dynamic. But if you can think about something that you miss or crave about your relationship dynamic back then, that's probably even more helpful. And then I want us to also reflect on now, what is something that we treasure so much about the depth of where we're at now that we would never trade for those early days of excitement. And for me, it was exciting to get to know you and exciting to learn all those things and have those moments. But I am so happy with the confidence and the stability now, like the lack of, when I hear people that are dating, kudos to you. But that like roller coaster was, and we didn't have much of a roller coaster, but it was still like ups and downs and like, and the lack of stability or the lack of self-confidence that I had for probably a number of reasons back then, I wouldn't trade that now. I would not trade that for anything.
No, so we were navigating through a lot. You know, we were learning each other. We were working together. We ran the same youth ministry. And, you know, we were navigating through so much of how opposite we were. And then we worked out, well, actually, we're strong together. But then it was like, you work that out, but then you need to go on this huge journey on, but how is that strong together? You know, because that can be a huge weakness or it can be a huge strength. But for it to become that strength, you need to put in the effort to make it that. And so, I'm the same. So when you said before about looking back at, something in your relationship back then, like, there's very little, even in our dynamics, there's very little I actually miss because I'm just so happy with where we're at now. And where we're at now is just a reflection of how much effort we've put into over those years from the beginning. Yeah.
One thing I do miss from the dynamics is my libido from back then, like my drive for physical affection. And I think having kids is just such a complicated dynamic with that. But sometimes I'll be like, what was it like to just crave being intimate or like even just like affection, being touched and stuff like that? Because I don't have that crave anymore. And it makes me a bit sad. Like I do wish that I could have that drive internally. Like I didn't have to like dig down to where that part of me was alive. It was just there and it's not the same anymore. Not in a bad way. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's, damaged or broken. It's just a layered thing. Yeah.
And I think with that too, there's this whole other level of exhaustion that goes on top of all of that too. I think something that you've had to really work on, and I know this is sort of going to the side a little bit here of what we're talking about, but I think these conversations are extremely important, is you've had to give yourself grace for that. Like you had this whole guilt around like, why am I doing this? Why don't I feel that way? And we've had to journey on that too, right? Like, so it was hard for a bit there, like me feeling rejected, you feeling like you're not, performing or whatever you want to do, like this expectation that you had on yourself and the expectation that I had on our relationship too, for sure. And we had to navigate through that. But it is normal as well. And I would love to actually do an episode on that with a professional coming in to speak to that.
That'd be so good.
Because I just see it as such a big topic for women. I see on socials and stuff, like other women talking about it, but kind of vague, and I would love more discussion about it.
Yeah, I think it's probably comes down to the same thing of everything's new and exciting back then. So it's easier. It's not complicated and layered. And then years down the track, there's so many things that play into what causes, it's not specifically this, anything, these layered, complicated, context-driven things. And so that's why you can look back and be like, oh, it was so easy then. And it was easy. But it wasn't easy because something's broken necessarily. It was easy because it was just automatically easy because of your circumstances. So that's some reflection things for you, just to reflect and get a sense of what is it? Because for some people, it might be really on the top of their minds. They might be like, I feel like I just miss this. I miss this. I miss this. And for other people, you might not even have spent time reflecting on what it is that's changed, where you're at now, what was different back then. And it's not an activity to try and make you feel depressed about it or feel really negative about it. It's just an opportunity to stretch your mind one way and then stretch your mind the other way to help us get on the same page. while we work through this. And there's a reason why this honeymoon period fades out as you develop into your relationship. There's positives and negative reasons, but there's a lot of reasons. And here are some of the ones that are more raw, I guess. So life layers on itself, routines, bills, kids, work deadlines, fatigue. I feel like the older you get, the more aware you get of health issues, family dynamics, the people around you's relationships, the people around you's situations, all of these things as you go into life become heavier and more aware. You're more aware of that. I think those things can be happening for you at the beginning, but when these dopamine, like intense, reward chemicals are going off, probably they don't feel as important. Probably this immediate excitement and new stuff kind of trumps all of that. But then as those chemicals fade off, life probably comes a little bit more into balance or even out of balance in the other way. And things like this routine, everyday life, responsibilities can start to crowd out some of that freshness. Familiarity creeps in. So you're no longer hanging on every word or every action or every thought of your partner because you already kind of know what they're going to say. And this is something I think that's beautiful and challenging. So it's beautiful because you want to get to that point in a relationship. We don't want to avoid that. That's an important part of relationship. The challenging part of it is to not let that become complacency or not let that become a self, perpetuating internal story you have about your partner and that kind of thing. Continuing that curiosity is really important in face of that. You can also catch yourself living out patterns that reinforce the negative stuff. So the things like the Gottman's 4 horsemen, we've spoken about that on this podcast in multiple episodes. So if you haven't heard those ones, make sure you check them out. They're really important. But they're the 4 horsemen of relationships, which are the 4 damaging patterns that you can see playing out in relationships that indicate the health of the relationship, the future of the relationship in many ways. So it's contempt, it's defensiveness, it's stonewalling, and it's criticism, I believe. And these are all patterns that you can find yourself in terms of your communication in your relationship that really are quite damaging when they're not assessed and addressed. Contempt is a really good example of this. If you've allowed contempt to grow, it's kind of like a little seed that you've allowed to take root into your brain and then it just grows and grows. If it's not addressed, it can be really, really hard to see your relationship for anything positive at all. So these patterns, and that's not the only patterns, like all the patterns we talk about on here all the time, these things, if they're left unchecked and if they're left assessed, like you're unaware of them, they can make it very easy for you to believe that things are negative. Your brain also shifts away from the novelty mode to efficiency mode. So instead of everything is new and exciting, we've got that dopamine going off, we've got those exciting chemicals happening because everything is new, we move into efficiency mode, stability mode. Instead of looking at how they're acting or their laugh or how they touch you or any of those things, you're focused on problem solving, on survival. You're focusing on getting through your responsibilities, these kinds of things. It shifts over to maintenance rather than the exciting beginning part. So these things become familiar and you're no longer noticing those little moments that give you those butterflies as regularly as you were at the beginning. And that's not bad. It's just life. So, but there's positives as well. There's positive spins on why this happens in relationships. The real beauty of relationships comes alive when you're in this stable, committed time. So it feels like we've lost something, but really that early time of relationships is to get into the stable long-term. That's what the process is. We want to get to this stable long-term. In the early days, we've got dopamine. That's like little fireworks going off in our head. They're fast, exciting, they're new, but dopamine spikes fade and it moves to oxytocin. So oxytocin, on the other hand, is released through constant closeness. So that's like the hugs, cuddling, sex, holding hands, even eye contact, that long-term intimacy that's built. That's the kind of trigger for this chemical. So dopamine is quick hits of excitement and oxytocin is long-term bonding. It lowers stress, it increases trust, it creates a baseline of calm and connection, and over time it helps you wire your brain to feel safe and steady with each other, not just excited. And so it's a really important and beautiful part of the process. Oxytocin doesn't give you butterflies the same way you might get with dopamine, but it does build this sense of home or this sense of belonging and connection.
With the bonding, this long-term bonding is what it creates.
And so it's the depth then is taking place of the newness. And I was saying to you just a few weeks ago or last week or something, that it was funny because at the beginning of our relationship, if I was to think about you, so if I was talking to someone about you, I would picture you, like picture Blair. And then now if I think about you, I almost don't picture you anymore. Like I don't have a physical picture. I could like call a physical picture to my mind. It's usually just beard and hat. But like I don't, you are not your physical being. You're like, it's almost like this glowy, ghosty vibe. I'm trying to think what it looks like in my head. Almost like the beings from, what's that show, that movie?
Ghostbusters.
The one about the souls. Is it Soul?
The
jazz player.
Yeah.
Soul, those little like blue being things that kind of glow.
Yeah.
You're more of a collection of everything that makes you you. So it's your responses, your humor, your voice, your reactions to things. It's like I know I've got this Blair filter and I know what your response for the most part would be to these things. And that's who you become in my mind. You're not just the physical surface level. And so I often, every now and then I have to train my brain to see you again. It's like I have to be like, look at him. And it's like I can finally focus in on your physical, which is a part of who you are to me now, but it's just one element. And so things like when we wake up in the morning and my hair is insane, I'm just projecting this on you. So I'm going to assume that you feel the same way about me. Do not correct me if you don't. When my hair is like insane, bedhead, or something like that, I'm assuming you don't look at me and think, who is that?
No, not at all. I thought you were going to say the opposite. I don't even notice your bed hair.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I don't, that sort of thing, I don't think we see. Like, and same with you, not that you have, your bed hair is so minimal. Bed beard. It doesn't change.
It doesn't.
Every now and then it'll stick up or something. Like, Mum was here on the weekend and was it Mum that was commenting on two pieces of your hair that would stick up?
The two pieces
I don't even see it. Like, I don't even notice it. And I would, if I was like, we're leaving the house, we got to go to this thing, I would be like, oh, your hair's sticking up. But until that happens, it's like, it's just not on my radar. And so things like us, our mess in the house or our disheveled selves, or when I was having babies and it was just so from the outside undignified, like that sort of stuff, it's not the image that sticks with us.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful. But I also really I'm genuinely trying to also hone in on you, because that's, I think what I said earlier, that's what I kind of mean when it's like, oh, you're here. Like we are significant to each other, instead of just existing in this kind of vague spirit, soul-y kind of realm all the time without that kind of depth. So the depth has replaced that newness. The depth has replaced the surface level. Security, I don't wonder anymore if you're going to call or if you're going to show up or if you're going to tell me what's going on or if you're still interested in me. I mean, every now and then there's moments of insecurity in a relationship where you do have those things. But for the most part, relationship is now like I just know you're here. That's who we are. We're committed to each other. I know you're going to communicate with me. I know it's a given that you're going to tell me when you're coming home and what you're doing in the day. And it helps that we work from home and we see each other all the time anyway. But that's the sort of stability that we're now in, this safetyness that's grown. Comfort as well. We can be raw, unfiltered, without fear, like brushing teeth, like all the things that you just like kind of hide at the beginning. You don't really show those parts. I remember I didn't even like eating in front of you. At the beginning. Yeah. For a long time. Not just you, just people in general. I hated eating in front of people. Who has the time to think about that? No longer do I care. My snoring, I snore quite a bit. I snore in front of you. First, when I found out I did that on our honeymoon, I was mortified. And now I don't love it, but I don't.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. It's just a part of life. So instead of those fireworks, as you move on, you get this steady warmth and this steady kind of belonging feeling. And that's important to value. So to reflect on this a little bit, I want us to ask these questions. What is something that we take for granted now, but would have blown our minds earlier on? Like to think about this when we were first dating would have just been like, oh my gosh, we're going to get to that stage.
If I think of that, I'm like, oh, how well we work together, like how much of a team we are, like the fact that we're going to get to that point, is something that stands out to me the most. That would be so exciting to be like, yeah, we've worked together ever since we've been dating. We've worked together. Like there hasn't been a job that I've been a part of that you haven't,
Yeah, I think for me it's similar, except it's just generalized, like the way that we tackle the challenges we've got.
Yeah.
The kind of good rhythm we've got in terms of problem solving and working through things and understanding our responses to stuff that wouldn't have had that stability early on, knowing that that's how we would tackle it. And also we wouldn't have tackled it the same way either. 'Cause a lot of it's been learnt.
Yeah, absolutely. So think through like how, when we identify something that we want to work on in the way that we approach our kids or parenting or whatever, it's not this like, do better. It's like, cool, well, how can we do better? Like, how can we work on that? It's very team orientated rather than that's your thing, this is my thing.
Yeah.
It's all our thing.
And what's the dynamic about your relationship now that younger you only dreamt about? Sort of similar question. But for me, you talking to our kids and saying something about mummy, like that kind of picture in my head as a young dating person, I would have just been like, one day I'm going to be the mummy that he's talking to the kids about. And that's so specific. But I dreamt about that. I always wanted to be a mum, and I always wanted to hear that kind of a dynamic playing out.
Yeah.
So this is all the reasons why this happens in the dynamics we've explored. Why is it that early relationship feels so different to longer term relationship? What are the positives and negatives of that? What are things that we can reflect on to help us be more aware of what's playing out? And this is why it's important. It's important to be appreciative of what we develop and what we move into. And I think that's kind of where my main focus is I want us to value what relationship becomes, because it's easy to value what's exciting and hypey and stuff at the beginning. It's harder to value the longer term, more serious, but like solid parts of relationship. But it's also important, and we want to explore this now, to revisit that spark. And we talked about that last week on our episode. In one of the Reddit stories we were talking about, he says his girlfriend doesn't put in effort with the sparks, sparks into their relationship, or however he worded that. And we were talking about the importance of that. So it is important to maintain this, to reflect on it, and to have it as an awareness in the everyday, normal, stable, longer term relationship that you have. So when the spark fades, it's not just about life's layers, but it can sometimes also be about where your focus has shifted. And with a lot of these relationship things, it'd be easy to be like, oh, it's because my partner doesn't do this. It's because my partner doesn't do this. We're not going to talk about that right now. That's not how we approach relationships on this podcast, because you can only control yourself, and it takes two to tango. And so I want us to reflect on these things personally, about how our focus may have shifted to adjust, and change the view we have of this spark element of our relationship. So what is something that you're more focused on about what's missing than what's present? Is there something that you're focused on what's missing in your relationship now, more than focusing on what is present and positive about your relationship now? Have I started assuming I know everything about my partner instead of staying curious? And this is a really big one, and an easy one to fall into. We have people be like, I don't know what to talk to my partner about. But there are so many things that you can still talk about. And we still have conversations. Every time we get a date night, or we get to go out or whatever, or we're driving, that's really good. We have huge conversations, and I love them, because even though a lot of it's probably not new information, it's a new conversation, and it's a new awareness of what's going on for each other. So have you started assuming you already know your partner instead of staying curious? When was the last time you genuinely celebrated them instead of correcting them, or instead of criticizing them? This is a big one too. When you're in the everyday, it can be really hard to identify the things that you love about them, especially when there's patterns that aren't feeling constructive. And that's not to downplay that there are some not helpful patterns that play out in relationships, or some people's partners really do have approaches to the relationships that are unhelpful and hurtful. That's not to downplay that experience. But if you have found yourself unable to celebrate them in some way, then you've got something going on inside you as well that can be assessed. So have you stopped to celebrate something about them? Or are you so tucked away in correcting them, criticizing them, what's missing in them that you can't even see that? And do I filter for flaws more than I filter for spark? Even physically, like what I said, I have to train my brain to see you sometimes. And that is, I think it's an important thing to continue to be like, oh, this is the person that I love and that I'm attracted to, and physically like recognizing that. Are you filtering for flaws more than you're filtering for the spark? So a lot of this stuff for me, the stuff that I find plays into how the spark is gone, the traps that I find myself in is me assuming what you're thinking about me. It's this like stupid story spiral that I get into, where I will assume I know what you're thinking about me, and then I'll build a story around what I think that you're thinking about me. It just is
90% of the time we've got it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are patterns that you can pick up on sometimes, but when that becomes your filter, or when that becomes what you base your actions off rather than you basing communication off, and then you clear it up and you work on it, then that's what it becomes. You almost can't see anything other than that. When I've picked up on something from you, most of the time it's when you're tired.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm just tired. So then I've picked up that you're tired. And when we can communicate about that and we're clear about it, awesome. When we haven't communicated about it, then it becomes a story in my head.
Yeah. It grows and it festers.
And it's a really tough one. And I have somebody that if you talk to them, there's all these stories about what their partner thought about them, what their partner thought about their body, about who they were, about how they acted. And when you press into those things, like, do they actually say that? A lot of the time, there's no actual moment of them saying, they're like, no, but I just knew that that's what they thought. And I'm not trying to downplay that was the tone or the attitude that might have come. But what was interesting was seeing how that story has built this story in their brain that becomes clearer and clearer about what their partner thought about them or said about them, that now they don't even remember if it happened or when it happened or how it happened. And it's sad that can build for people. It's sad that you can get into a place where you feel criticized by your partner or you feel like there's something going on. But it's a good example of the filter that can happen that can change the way you're viewing your relationship now. And if you do not communicate about it, it can build a whole story about where you're at.
And I think this is important too. You might be like, well, I haven't spoken to him about it because I can't talk about it. This is the purpose of our podcast, is to start these conversations. You might not be able to be in a point where you go straight there, but if you can strip back and just start somewhere, and it's just these micro steps towards that sort of a relationship. That's what we're encouraging here, to take those micro steps when needed.
And to do that work on yourself first. So assess, be like, is there a chance that there's a story playing out for me that I don't have all the information on? What else could be true? And help to stretch your mind in that to help your attitude, because when you're able to assess your attitude and work on your attitude and approach, it can help the overall approach to the things you're trying to tackle together. So just in summary, honeymoon, dopamine, excitement, everything is new, everything is good. Then you move into this longer term relationship that moves to oxytocin, I can never say that word, and stability. And so it's more like safety, trust, calm. Both of them are important. Too much dopamine chasing and you burn out, or you search for the next new thing. Only oxytocin without the spark is the relationship can start to feel flat or stale. And so that's why sprinkling novelty and newness into your relationship now, those little dopamine moments, actually is really important. Revisiting that can help you boost attraction. It helps create fresh joy in your relationship, helps you shift out of that roommate vibe that we've spoken about before on here. And it helps the relationship keep from sliding into autopilot. It's also a sign of a well-adjusted relationship. So if you're able to have this tension going on where you've got this stability and this depth, but you're also bringing in these new exciting things and exploring each other, that's a sign of a good, well-adjusted relationship that's balancing things. So we're going to move into a really practical way to reignite this. We spoke about this at the beginning. What if this week could be your fresh honeymoon period? What if this week could be an intentional time to have a fresh approach to your relationship? There's two practical things that we're going to suggest today. One is to do as a couple, one is to do as an individual if you're not ready to do that with your partner. So the first challenge is one evening mini date night / honeymoon. Now, this doesn't matter if you're out of the home. If you can go out of the home and you've got the resources for that, that's great. If you can't, it's still 100% doable. And we talk about this on the podcast a lot. You can have at-home date nights and shift up your everyday routine to still have special time together. Doesn't have to be super long, doesn't have to be super fancy, but setting aside time that is different is really important. So there's a few things that will set this time apart. One is wear something that feels good. So both of you take time to get changed into something that feels different. Change into something that's out of the ordinary, not your trackies and your pajamas or your honey we need to chat t-shirt. This is important because it tells your brain that this is something special. It sets it apart from the everyday. And it also helps to do what we were just saying, reminds you to see your partner as a physical person, not just your roommate. Spray, perfume, or cologne, both of you find a special, nice smell that you know you like or your partner likes and use that. Like I said, it's a really powerful memory anchor for me. It sets the time apart when I can smell your perfume, your cologne. And it can take you back, especially if it's an old one, like one you've had for ages, it can take you right back to those early days as well. Share a favorite meal, snack, or drink. This is another thing we hear people say is that it's not sustainable for them. The kids aren't in bed early enough, so they can't have dinner together or something. So just adjust to whatever suits you, whether that's a drink, dessert, just a snack, or a full meal if you've got that available to you. find something you both enjoy eating/drinking and set that time apart. And this is helpful for a couple of things. One, eating something that you love creates positive associations to that moment. It releases feel-good hormones and it sets it apart from everyday life, especially when it's not normal family dinner time. It's you and your partner dinner time after the kids are in bed. Really important one, put phones and devices away. This is probably pretty straightforward, but our lives are so full with the noise from our devices. And even what we were reflecting on earlier, the difference in the last 13 years is crazy in terms of the impact of phones and stuff like that. And you might not be using them and you might just be like, oh, we want to watch a movie together or something like that. And that's great that you do those things together. But the noise that comes from external interactions, entertainment devices, it really, I find, is really distracting to interacting and seeing Blair when we're having those moments together. So just set them aside for this time.
If we're watching a movie and on our phones, it's way less even quality time. I don't see movies as quality time when we do that. If we're on our phones and watching, it's just like, it's like you're not even there.
Yeah. And then have some chats. Here are some prompts for things you can talk about. Here's one thing I noticed about you today, or this is one memory that still makes me smile. We talked about a bunch of those earlier in the episode. What is the first moment I remember being aware of you? For us, we again spoke about this. It was at church. What's that moment of really being aware of you? Sometimes these things you haven't even reflected on together and definitely haven't probably reflected on recently. So it's really nice to hear those things. Or what stood out to me the most about you in early days? So it was Blair's beanie. No, it's just I can see your face with your beanie. Actually, it's your forearms.
Oh, I like your forearms. Go.
So stuff like that, the things that stood out
boys.
to you in the early days. But if those conversations are too awkward for where you're at, you don't need to dive into these deep reflective things. You can still manage a special time by making it light. And we talk about this, the would you rathers. These are really good icebreakers and seem silly, but they actually have helped us interact with each other. Help us be curious because a lot of them are questions you haven't never asked, so you won't necessarily know the answer to. And sometimes they build into bigger conversations and they tell us something about each other. So I've got a few here, but you can Google, there's so many. This is, would you rather give up your favorite food or your favorite TV show? Would you rather have the hiccups for the rest of your life or always feel as if you're about to sneeze? Would you rather have a personal theme song that plays whenever you walk into a room or your own laugh track following your jokes? You want your laugh track.
I want my laugh track.
I knew that. Yeah. Would you rather be the big spoon or the little spoon?
Always going to be little.
You love that little spoon, don't you? Would you rather have a 1-minute conversation with your past self or your future self?
Future.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Well, it depends on the purpose. If it's past self, it's like I want to give wisdom. If it's the future self, I want to receive it.
If I could have a 1-minute conversation with young Amy to help her, but she wouldn't accept it. So probably the future self.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after these things, whatever you set this night apart with, after all of this, end the night with a marker, mark the end of the time together. So a long hug, a kiss, a dance in the kitchen, something that feels fine for you, doable for you, but is different to normal. It's not just, oh, okay, let's roll over onto our phones now. So that's something that you can do right this week. Just pick a night. It doesn't even have to have tons of preparation. You don't have to spend a bunch of money. Make it work for you that you can set this time apart. And I would challenge that most couples are able to implement this week if it's something that they're willing to try. If you're hearing this and you're like, my partner would never agree to do this, we're just not in the place where that could work, or I don't feel comfortable asking them to do this, then there's still stuff you can do on your own in this week to implement this new spark, this new refreshment. And these are some reflections that you can do on your own to start getting yourself in a good headspace with this to hopefully help the culture of your relationship. So every day, just set a timer to take 60 seconds to reflect on these things. What's one little thing I notice about my partner today? What is something physical about them that I really love? What do they look like when they're really laughing? That's a really interesting one. What's one thing I'm grateful for about them right now? What's one quality I admired when we first met that I can still see now? And some of these might take some mental gymnastics, but you should be able to figure something out to answer these questions.
All of these questions can be weaponized. I want to say that too. Is you could look at all of these different things. So for example, what they look like when they're laughing, you could be like, oh, I hate it when they laugh.
Yeah.
I hate their look when they laugh. Find the good. And that's everything that we're talking about here is you're finding the good. So that might be effort for you, but that is the objective.
That is
if
the
you
challenge,
keep getting stuck in the negatives of everything, it's like, oh, there's nothing physically I like about them or whatever else it is. It's not true. You can find something. So just put that challenge on yourself. This isn't to give you more ammo. This is to really to give you the tools for you to work on what you're bringing to the relationship.
Yeah.
The expectation is not on your partner with these questions. The expectation is on you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. And if you're finding that pattern, recognize that. Notice that, because that's a pattern indicating something else might be going on for you. And if you really can't answer one of them positively, don't answer that one. Move on to another one and find one that you can, because there's something there that you can explore. So write it down or speak it out in your head or just reflect on it yourself. Those kinds of things can help you bring back some of that spark from the early days. So we don't need to be living like we've just met each other. That's not sustainable. We don't need to be trying to chase that high that we had at the beginning. It's also not sustainable. We don't want that. And it might feel like we do because it sounds flashy, nice, easy. But the reality is that's not sustainable, and that's not depth of relationship. So it's an important tension to keep in place. But we also don't want to be so ingrained in the routine that we can't even see our partner anymore and we can't even appreciate them. So this is a challenge for us to try and refresh that and get our brains back into a space where we can appreciate each other again. And we're really keen to hear how this plays out for you. If you try it, please let us know. We would love to see your reflections on it. And let's all try to just reignite some of this sparky.
Sparky, spark, spark.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. We'll chat to you soon.
Good chat.